Greetings, land of Bitcoin. First thing I want to say real quick is I don't want to run people away from my channel by giving my opinions on being a bear at this specific point in time. Long term, I'm very bullish. I'm a Bitcoin bull, but I'm not going to make videos to get views and blah, 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 blah. So these yellow lines here is kind of a resistance support area. I'll get to that in a minute. These vertical lines are the Bitcoin futures closing dates monthly, last Friday of the month, every month. I'm going to talk about that second after the yellow lines. First, I want to say I saw a comment saying, when I was bearish a couple days ago, saw a comment saying I was the worst channel ever, and do I ever get anything right? And actually, I called. Just put 30 seconds into this if you don't mind. Don't click away yet. I got some good stuff to talk about. But here, on the very day, within 24 hours before it happened, I called that. I said there's a huge dump coming. It did. 42,000 to 28,000 here within 24 hours before it happened. I called this dump. I did say it would probably be a little bigger, pretty close. I think I said it might be up to like 8,000 to 12,000 and only went 5,500. But 2 days ago, a day and a half ago, I made a video saying here it's almost time for the pump and dump. And now it could go up. This is the daily chart. So when I draw a line saying Bitcoin might do this, right, that from left to right is about 10 days, right? So don't think I'm talking about right now, right away, right? So Bitcoin could liable to over the next few days. Maybe it goes even up to test 50,000, right? So I'm talking more long term in my videos. Although when I do put out those dump videos, those are kind of warnings of my opinion. This is not investment advice because I could be wrong, but I've been watching this really close for a while. And if my channel was one of the worst channels out there about Bitcoin on YouTube, because here at 42,000, I started making bear videos saying Bitcoin is probably coming down to at least 20,000. And when I made it to 29,000, I was $9,000 off, and it still could come down. We could still come down to sub 20 very easily, folks. I don't want to get into that again. I covered that in my last video. But the point I want to make real quick is, I I got into this back here in November, December of 2020, and I was watching all those big channels on YouTube. Hmmmm Crypto saying like I think 230,000, 220,000 was his prediction for Bitcoin this year. DaVinci J15, these are the big channels. I'm sure you've seen them. He was saying Bitcoin is probably going to go to $1.2 million this year. Carl the Moon, he was saying Bitcoin, he thinks it will go to $700,000 this year. BitBoy, over there on BitBoy Crypto, he was saying, I think $330,000 Bitcoin's going to this year. So the closest one of those guys is, let's see, we got to 65. Hmmmm Crypto said, what, 220? So $155,000. Those professionals were off. And so I'm off by 9,000, and I'm the worst channel on Bitcoin on YouTube. I just want to address that real quick. So I know what it's like to get hyped up. I know what watching those hype channels do to people. And when I make my videos based on what I think is reality, I know how discouraging, and it makes me feel like your enemy. I know, but I've been watching this market really close, and there's a problem. There's a problem. In my opinion, to solve part of the problem would for it be the Bitcoin to come down to 15, 20,000 and have big time investors around the planet make huge investments and hodl and never sell. I think a lot of the problem is is this is those very channels I was talking about, right? The ones that everyone likes, is super bullish and it's always going to the moon. I mean, they do make dump videos, but to get views on YouTube on Bitcoin, you want to tell everybody, it's so sunshine outside. It's going to do this, and we're going to the moon. And when reality videos come along, you just naturally don't want to hear it, right? So, I could make, I could blow sunshine at you and probably get 7,000 views off this video instead of 1,000. I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here. I didn't really want to talk about this in this video, but basically, in my opinion, my little thing I'm good at is spotting momentum. And Elon Musk, this dump from 60,000 to 29,000, a lot of people lost a lot of money, and it's just going to be hard to recover this year. Basically, I hate to say it, but 2022 could be surprising. 2022, we might have a parabolic pump. I didn't want to get into that in this video, but I'm kind of rambling on here. Let's see what other stuff can I talk about. Momentum. Like, I got in here 2020. Right, that's my deal. I like spotting these momentum things. I came here from the clean energy sector, where I got on like Enphase Energy, Solar Edge, that kind of stuff. Getting in down here before these things happen, and it's going to take momentum, right? There needs to be something that happens for people to want to get back in. Momentum, right? So the hardcore professionals with the big pockets, in my opinion, they're just simply, they're not going to buy up here, right? I just don't think they're ever going to buy up here. If it comes down here, I think that's when it happens. And then Bitcoin would gain momentum, right? Gain no momentum for a big push, and hopefully we can get Elon Musk to leave us alone this time. I just think that was heartbreaking for Bitcoin in 2021. I do not think it's going to recover the way that everyone would like it to. It's going to take time, right? That momentum needs to build. And there is momentum building now for sure. There is recovery happening. Maybe it turns out 29,000 was the bottom, but I don't think so. And I don't think those big players got in. I'm sure there were. That's this whole thing of, if this is going to be a dead cat bounce here, if this is a dead cat bounce, or if it were to get up here above these yellow lines and turn this into support, what that's going to hinge on, one of those two things will happen. What's that's going to hinge on is who's invested in here in the last 3 weeks. This hodlers, or is this traders with leverage? Now, of course, it's a mix of both, but which one's more, right? I'm sure there was some accumulation by big people here that might hold for a long time. It's probably not a bad spot to get in, but I think a lot of this from basically like here on up is probably traders with high leverage, and in that case, this thing could dump in a heartbeat, and I do think that's coming. It just depends on who's in there, right? Is that investors hodling for 10 years or more, or is it leverage traders that will be out in less than 12 months, right? Or less than a month, or less than a week, or less than 24 hours. We'll find out. If it's a lot of leverage juice, which I'm inclined to believe it is, then this is probably a dead cat bounce. We're coming back down. If investors, if there's like enough investors that got in there, then of course they're not going to be selling like the traders will be, and that would lead to maybe a recovery. But I just don't think Bitcoin went down far enough or long enough to gain that kind of momentum to sustain another push up. Now, I know, looking at the headlines and the stories out there right now, I know there's people saying it's super bullish and all this, and maybe it is, but don't go overboard, right? This is not investment advice. Okay, the kid is rambling now. So, yellow lines. There's not really one specific resistance in the low 40,000s and the low 50,000s, like 51,000, and then like 42 to 43 is probably pretty strong resistance support. Bitcoin's just kind of in the middle right now, in the middle of that zone. It did bust through a lot of resistance, but it's coming back down a little bit. It's kind of right there, right? That's what these yellow lines represent. It has busted through a lot of resistance, but as you can see, this cycle basically of Bitcoin in 2021, basically here is one level. You could probably even come down a little bit more. Like that's kind of one universe for Bitcoin, and then there's a multiverse. Here's the other. Here's the other. There's kind of two layers there, right? It's pretty obvious. There's two distinct levels there, and we've only actually busted up through this yellow band once, and that was back here on the Elon Musk or the Tesla announcement. I was watching this very close back there in those days, and this was the Tesla announcement, and that's basically what busted us up from 40,000 to above 50,000. Was that? It was a $10,000 day daily candle, and then the 2 weeks after that, it was just so much energy and hype and just wonderful feelings, right? It just blasted us all the way up. And in my opinion, February 21st was basically the top of this market. And all this was afterwards is just kind of sideways with the Coinbase IPO hype, sell the news, buy the rumor, sell the news. It's up to 65,000. Otherwise, this was basically the top here, about 59. We got up to 61, 62 there for 2 days. But this is basically the top. The third week of February, as stupid as that sounds. And everything since then is basically just sideways in a huge range. And then I don't want to talk about what happened here. I'm sick of talking about it. This is depressing, right? I was going to make a video talking about what would have happened this year had Elon Musk never gotten involved. But I'll save that for another video. I think this this cycle would probably be vastly different without him doing what he's been doing. I don't know if he even understands what he's doing. There were people, I'm sure, with that amount of hype out there. I'm sure there's probably people in here that risked way more than they probably ever should have. Right? And here, there's probably people out there that lost their life savings and their houses and their vehicles and their kids' college money. And, that's probably what Elon Musk doesn't think about when he's taking bong hits and sitting in his living room firing out tweets, right? He might not be thinking about other people. Let's not get into that. Okay, we got support. Those yellow lines out of the way. You saw there what I was trying to say is 51,400. I shouldn't have erased it that quick. 51,400 ballpark is where you'd want to see Bitcoin to bust up through and turn into support to probably reclaim the upper level. It's kind of in the middle right now. It's kind of in no man's land. What's it going to do, right? What's it going to do? Is it going up or is it going down? It's obviously going to pump or it's going to dump, right? It's not going to just sit there right now doing this. And one thing it's really reminding me of is this. Very much reminds me of this. The difference is this was juiced up with Tesla news, and this, maybe if there's some really good news that comes out, I mean ultra good news, like Apple or some country or something's invested their ton of money in it, that could do it. It broke through it, and only 4 days, actually 4 or 5 days later, it came back down through it. I didn't really pay attention to that. just different now. We'll see. We'll see. Uh, I'm just ignoring all those headlines I see about awesome bullish stuff, and I'm just going with what I've learned in my 3 years of staring at this stuff, and it just appears to me to be a dead cat bounce. Let's get to these vertical lines before I yammer on any longer. The good thing about dead cat bounce is, though, it comes down, and then that's what we want, right? We want that momentum. We need that momentum to build for the parabolic push, right? I just feel like this is like an athlete that stumbled off 1 foot, right here. Instead of getting both his feet under him for some kind of move, just off balance, and it just doesn't feel right. I don't think it's sustainable. Could be wrong. Okay, these light green lines, CME futures for Bitcoin, monthly closures, last Friday of every month. On the left is December of 2020. I just want to mark that off. We're not really looking at that. Over here on the right, the yellow is September 21. That's not really in play right now. I just want to extend the graph a little bit so you can see what we're looking at here. So the price action of Bitcoin leading into these monthly closers. This is Bitcoin futures, the CME. This is the month of January. Pumped up to the middle of January, and we dumped down to the futures close on the last Friday of the month. Making this chart, I did not realize this, and this is really interesting. If I could quit drawing on lines. This is really interesting right here. See this? January 29th. This did not occur to me until just now. This is when Elon Musk put the word Bitcoin in his Twitter account. Right here, there's a giant green wick. See the little skinny line there? Let's zoom in on that. I want to show this to you. Right here, see this enormous wick? I did not realize that was the exact day of the futures close of Bitcoin when Elon Musk did that. That's kind of weird. I'm pretty sure he did that in the early morning hours as well on January 29th. Caused a huge, massive pump. And then, of course, this wick coming down is a huge, massive dump. It wicked up to like 38,800. It dumped back down to 34,300. There's actually a wick on the bottom. 32,000 to about 39,000, about $7,000 up and down on the day of the close. I did not realize that. That's very interesting. I wish I would have realized it before. That's some odd timing. But anyways, February, pump up to the middle of the month, late in the month, crash down to the date of the closure, futures close. So the bears are in control. March, pump up to around the middle, second, third week of the month, dump down to the future close. Right in here, I was starting to make my first charts about Bitcoin. I was noticing how similar those first 3 months were. Then April did the same thing, except for it came down a lot further than I thought it would. Back here in those days, I was under the impression that Bitcoin was going to at least, $250,000. I was believing all that. When it loses momentum, it's hard to get momentum back right away, right? And this was an awful, crushing blow. It's like if someone was running a marathon and someone ran out of the crowd and punched them in the stomach, right? They're not going to just keep on running hard for another 12 miles, right? They're going to sit down for a while or bend over, and they're going to take a break, right? They're not just going to keep going. Anyways, dumps down to the monthly closure. Hard, huge dump. Actually, on this one, 4 days before the closure, it did pump back up. It regained about 50% of the dump. Month of May is a little different. It definitely, I'd say definitely dumped down to the end of the monthly closure. But Of course, Elon tweeted here about how his $1.5 billion investment's not good for the environment. Like he didn't know that. He didn't know that in February. He just runs a massive clean energy company. But he didn't have that information in February. But in May, he had that information now. Dump down to it. Zoom in here. There's pump up towards it, but on the day before and the day of the closure, big dumpage. And then so we're kind of in a different dynamic here after that dump. Everyone's kind of gasping for air, catching their breath. And we did actually kind of start to resemble that same pattern. Pumped up second, third week, dumped down to it once again. Little pump leading into it on the same day, big dumpage. It's kind of following the same pattern, give or take. January, February, March, April, May, June, July is different. July turned out to be different. It dumped down. It looked like it was dumping down to it, right? I think it wanted to. Now, I don't know if these monthly futures, maybe that has something to do. Maybe that added some fuel to this pump. But it sure looked like it was dumping down to it again in July. Maybe the futures had something to do with this pump as well. But pumped up to it and immediately dumped down. So the trends kind of changed, right? It had been kind of dumping down to it and then kind of pumping away from it almost every single time. See that? At least a little bit. This was the first time where it pumped up to it. And then afterwards it dumped down. It's totally reversed. So the question is, here we are, right? Second, third week of August. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 out of the 7 months this year, we have dumped down to this date, right? We've clearly dumped down something like this, right? Almost every single time, even if there be a day or two before even to do pump up back a little bit. See what I'm saying? It just depends on who is in charge. Will the Bears take back over, or will the Bulls take back over? Right? Will the Bulls pump it into the monthly close? There's a tendency to try to find pain. It's basically a game, right? It's a game. They're trying to find everyone's pain points, and they want to find where the most painful point is for the Bears, and they want to find where the most painful point is for the Bulls. I say they. I guess I'm talking about the composite, man. I don't want to give anyone advice. This is certainly not advice, but this plays into my overall analysis on the macro scale that we're probably going to be looking at something like this. Maybe not a huge one or something, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what we're looking at right there. Something along those lines. Probably 39,000 on just kind of freehanding here. I think one important thing you want to watch is if we set a lower low here at about 37,000. You want to watch, do we set a lower low, right? So some people out there may have been saying this was some kind of accumulation. I'm not sure how they say that. 42,000 to 29,000 is an awfully strange accumulation, but it does kind of look like a pump coming out of there. An accumulation pump would set higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and then go up here and do something like this, like at 50,000, little momentum building thing here, and then go poing, right? That's what you want an accumulation pump to look like. So here, this is what I'd be watching if you're worried about something like that. About 37,000. If Bitcoin does come down, you want to see if it sets a lower low. A lower low is bad. I think this is a dead cat bounce, and it's not that I want to be right. It's just what I think. I don't really care either way at this point. I just giving out my opinion. So I guess in a nutshell, I am watching 37,000. If it comes below there, I'm thinking dead cat bounce is maybe confirmed, or at least very much in play. And if it does not come down there and it does bounce, if it bounces, if it sets a high or low and comes back up, then maybe it has a chance. But that it could still come back down. But it's kind of almost feeling like we're in another distribution top. Like maybe this could be a dead cat bounce that just freaks everyone out for a couple months, right? And this might turn into something like this, right? It's a big redistribution pattern, and it just throws everyone off balance, right? And it kind of bounces in here like this for a while, and then there we go, right? So watch out for that. But anyways, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. Got you something to think about. Now remember, I'm talking long term. So when I draw a line that looks like this, that could be 3 weeks or a month, right? When I draw a line from here to here, that's 30 days. So I mean, don't don't take that as literal, but I'm not talking about 6 hours from now or tomorrow, right? I'm generally talking about things that are going to happen in weeks and months. So don't forget about that. As always, thanks for watching.